Okay, so today I am in Manchester with Jeff Lawton. Thanks very much for agreeing to talk to me today, Jeff, in this most impressive man's cave I've ever been in. So, from what you've told me, you're from modest means, born in Barnsley, and are now a very successful punter, owner and breeder. Is it all through your prowess with a formbook?
I would say so. Now, probably earlier on, maybe not so much so. I think more for me, it's having the time to dedicate it since I went fully professional, got rid of all the business interests I had. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, having the time to dedicate to be able to go through the form book, gradually rather than in a rush.
So you are now fully professional punter?
Oh God, yeah, I've been without any other business interests for about 17, 18 years now.
Okay, so between now and then and now, when you were born in Barnsley, you've been a policeman, part of the team that caught the Yorkshire Ripper, moonlighted as a DJ while still a policeman, ran an entertainment business and became friend of the stars, Gary Barlow being one. Where did you find the time to become a form book expert?
Well, all those things you mentioned were many years. They were sort of late 80s. I had a cabaret club in Manchester called Bigwigs, hence I don't know if you noticed the number plate, I've got that on there. And I became friends with many of them, like Tamla Motown star Jimmy Ruffin, Ray Lewis from the Drifters, and loads more. It was late 90s onwards that I really started to make consistent profits out of racing. When I decided I was going to jack in all my other interests and just concentrate on that.
Okay, so where did that interest in horse racing come from originally?
Would have to be my dad, even though he was only like a 50p each way punter, but we used to holiday a lot in places like Great Yarmouth, and I remember as a 12 and 13-year-old him taking me into the betting shops there, and then as a 16-year-old when I started work that's when the old Excel system was around, and then from being 18 I used to go racing as much as I could on all my days off. I would go, and it just developed from there. I was no good at it, I might add.
That's what I was going to say. I assume you were doing your money at that point.
Well, if I managed to get through 2 weeks of a month's salary when I was in the police, I'd had a good month. Having said that, I was the first person I know that managed to get a video recorder back in 1981 when there were no even video shops. But I think I just had a particularly good week one week and thought, well, I better spend it on this rather than give it back to the bookies. I actually remember one night when I was in the police and I told them all I'd got a video recorder. 4 of us jumped into a police car at 3 o'clock one morning when it was quiet, drove 15 miles to my house to watch an episode of The Professionals. And it was like mesmerising for them, but yeah, they were few and far between though.
They didn't have one in the police station then?
No, oh God, no. There were no even video shops in those days.
So what was the sort of catalyst that turned you into a winning punter from like a recreational losing one?
As I said, I think the main was having the time to be able to spend, and certainly when I started doing my own ratings and that, obviously I was busy at that initial time, so I would spend the day in the office when I was managing all the bands as an entertainment agent. I'd then go out to see them at night, and I used to try and get home for midnight so I could then watch the day's racing, or the previous day's racing. And I always knew at a time to go to bed when the birds started singing, which was usually about 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so you've skipped there. So you were in the police.
Yeah.
You were losing money when you were in the police. In between, you were moonlighting as a DJ. So how did the jump from the police to the music industry come about?
Okay, so I started DJing when I was in the police, but you can't do that. You're not allowed any other income whatsoever. And I got offered the chance to go to Scandinavia working, and I went there in 1980. Well, I'd just left the police and I went to Scandinavia to work, and then from there I came home and I went to Croatia to work, or what was the old Yugoslavia then. This was all DJing, and then I got a job in a ski resort for winter, still DJing. But in the 2 weeks that I came home for a holiday between the summer and winter, my dad died and I met my first wife. So I never went back. And then we went into pubs. I had a pub in Harrogate, and then eventually moved across to Manchester, opened the Cabaret Club in the late 80s. And that's how it all sort of, I got to there.
So was this sort of rave stuff, or was it this more...
No, more the old-fashioned cabaret. I'd got the old 70s acts on, like the Bay City Rollers and Tony Christie and Jimmy Ruffin, Edwin Starr, all these big names. And that's how it all started, me getting into the entertainment industry.
Okay, so you say, you going back to the betting and the form, you had more time to study the form. I mean, form study is all about interpretation. Were you interpreting it wrong before, or did you just literally learn more?
I think, like most people, I treated it as a hobby too much. I always had other incomes, so it wasn't that important to me, win or lose, even though I want to win and everybody wants to win. But it was never the end of the world if I lost. And I think that's most casual punters' problem. It's not the be-all and end-all is winning.
Okay, but you still got to... I mean, most punters try very, very hard, and they still can't be as successful as you've been.
Yeah.
So what does the punter... What do you see in your interpretation of the form and win that someone that reads the same form doesn't and loses?
Well, everything I do, I back up with figures. I find that our eyes, deceive us when a horse wins easily or it looks unlucky in running. Must be a good thing next time. But if the figures tell me different, I tend to have another think about it, because I do think figures are really important.
And that's speed figures?
Can be any figures that you use. People use different figures, like racing post ratings, time, form, speed figures. There can be whatever you use that you believe in, back them up. The figures will back up what you think, or if it doesn't back up what you think, then step away.
And you went one step further because you'd started doing your own ratings. So what were they based on, and what did the, race form and time form lack that your ratings improved on?
I don't think my ratings are better than time form or race form. I think they're more personal to me, and I started doing them when I had quite a few horses in training because I wanted to place them, and that's how they originally started. And now I use them obviously from a betting point of view, and it's hard work keeping on top of them. Obviously I only do the 2-year-old races, the 3-year-old races, and it's hard work keeping on top of everything and redoing them when horses have run, when I've come out of the race, and you've got to rejig them again. But it does pay dividends. And
I mean, why would you concentrate on 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds and flat racing?
I think that when you're looking at horses that run 10 times plus, they're not going to improve like a 2-year-old would who's had 1 or 2 runs, who can be unlucky, who can be green, who can just look like they don't know what they're doing. When you get to know the horse have worked since, or even at the pedigree, that's where I find the edge comes on 2 and 3-year-olds, rather than a 4-year-old handicapper that has run lots of times.
Okay, because a lot of what you do then must be based on what you anticipate is going to happen in improvement rather than what has happened. Whereas if you were studying sort of hurdlers or chasers.
Yeah, I tend to concentrate on the flat anyway. So I wouldn't, even though I do bet over jumps, and nowhere near to the volume that I would on the flat. So I think you've got to specialise. Whatever you believe in, whatever you are good at, concentrate on that thing. You can't be a jack of all trades.
All right, so what is the core element of your ratings?
Well, as I said, my figures would be what I design for myself. Whether it be... the one thing I would say about when I look in a form book, the most important thing in the form book for me is there's no hype. We can all get carried away about the rumours that come from Newmarket and Lambourne and all these other training centres. But the form book is real. It's what you see in the form book is factual. So I think that's one of the important things to me, is that you don't listen to all these rumours.
And with 2-year-olds especially, I imagine what they look like in the paddock is very important. So
Yeah.
where do you get your information for that? Do you go racing on a regular basis?
Not as much as I used to do. I used to be 4 or 5 days a week religiously. I would never do less than 4 days in a week. Now, I'm not sure the benefit is there when you think that I'll start work at 6 o'clock in the morning. You've then probably got a 3-hour drive. You've got 3 hours at the races, 3 hours back. You're not getting home until 8 o'clock. And I like to start tomorrow's racing today. So if I'm not getting in until 8 o'clock, you have something to eat. Suddenly it's midnight and you need to be alert. So there's no point doing this when you're shattered all the time. I just found that weighing up, is it worth me going racing? Am I getting that much benefit out of it? And probably the answer is no. I'm all right doing it from where I am.
And obviously you've said what sort of races you concentrate on, so you can put a line through a lot of them.
Yeah.
But can you whittle it down even further than that? So the races, you put a line through, obviously I assume, the maidens and unraced 2-year-old races.
Yeah, I would seldom back an unraced horse. Seldom, I mean, these are all over bet, all over hyped, and I would never say never to anything, but I would seldom back an unraced 2-year-old.
Right, so you're a layer as well as a backer.
No, I don't lay. I don't lay. I just avoid them. What I tend to do is, when I think this is important, I'll touch on this later. For me, one of the most important things is identifying the races to bet in. So there might be 4 meetings, 3 meetings, and I'll identify the races that I'm interested in looking at. And I'll do that 11 o'clock the day before the race. So I'll run the sheets off, put some figures to them, the races that I'm interested in, and then leave them alone while 6 o'clock next morning. And I might have got 6 or 7 races to look at, and I'll usually whittle that down to 2 or possibly 3 races that I want to bet in. But I want to bet in the races where I'm the favourite, not the bookmaker's the favourite.
Okay, and you say you put the figures to them. Do you price them up yourself?
No, I tend not to do that. Again, it's all down to purely down to time. There are only so many hours you can do this. And I find in summer I'm probably doing 14 hours a day anyway. So you have to believe in somebody else's work as well.
Okay, so how much would you believe, if you got somebody marking your card as far as prices go?
No, I mean, I used to get the old tissue when it was out for what it was worth, and then you'll see bookmaker prices come up as early as 3 o'clock the day before. So you get a mark as to where you are. But as I say, if you start trying to do your own prices, it does become very, not enough time.
And finally, on this part, you don't put your own prices up, so you're not then swayed by what the prices are when the market settles down.
I do find in this game there are 2 markets: the early morning market and the market 15 minutes before the race, and they're chalk and cheese. So I like to get my bets on early. I always think I know more than the bookie at 8 o'clock in the morning. By 9 o'clock, they probably know more than me. So I like to have my bets on early and get the prices.